Yo, what is going on? Welcome back to the show. Hope everybody is good. I'm always awesome because we are diving into week number 13. Start, sit, finishing, concluding off with the remainder of the contest that were not played on Thanksgiving and Black Friday. We got a full slate of games, no bye weeks this week. Very important to get the dubs because we got bye week Armageddon coming in week 14. So this is a massive week that we got to get the wins so that we can at least earn a shot at the fantasy playoffs. If you're not in already and you're on the cusp, I got you covered. You guys know the drill. Rapid fire. Every team, every player. Let's go. Arizona Cardinals taking on those Minnesota Vikings. Cards lose last week in ugly fashion, man. I don't know what it is about this team. They play away from their dome, their home stadium, and they do not look great. Kyler Murray this week taking on the Vikings defense that has been gashable through the air of late, so I do believe a bounce back should come this week for Kyler. Good upside in the green. 6 booms, almost 200 points. Just such an off week last week. Did not look great in Seattle, and I just don't understand why this team looks so different at home than on the road. It's really peculiar, to be honest, in that sense, but I still like a Kyler Murray this week. They got to win this contest to keep pace with these Seattle Seahawks for the division lead, where the Vikings, like I said, their defense is susceptible, so we got to see a bounce back from a James Conner mid-level risk 8-boom games. He's been good, failed us last week, and okay, it was just one of those games where the defense played extremely well for Seattle, and they just could not get anything going. I do like a little bit of a bounce back for a James Conner potential end zone trip mid-level risk. I do like the play. Marvin Harrison Jr., he's been disappointing us. Just not getting the targets, and everyone wants to fault at Marvin Harrison. I disagree at this point. We saw Trey McBride. He took like 20 targets last week, all at the demise of a Marvin Harrison Jr. It's just who Kyler is most comfortable throwing the ball to at this point. We know that a Marvin Harrison is just unreal. Still TD upside for a Marvin Harrison on the mid-level risk. I don't dislike the play in flex play for me. I do think that there is TD upside here all day long. Michael Wilson, not enough. Likewise with a Greg Dortch. But Trey McBride, he could be basically stud start almost every week. The way he's being peppered with targets, he's got an extremely safe floor, one of the best young tight ends in this league. You fire him up everywhere you got him. Atlanta Falcons taking on those Chargers. Okay, Kirk O'Chain's coming off the bye week where the Chargers coming off the loss. Don't know what happened to those Chargers last week. They got some troubles with J.K. Dobbins, but the defense and the offense, they went to sleep in that second half versus those Baltimore Ravens. Very strange. Kirk O'Chain's coming off the bye week. They need a big win in the biggest ways as well. Low floor, though. I have not really cared for the game of a Kirk Cousins the past several weeks. He has been foiling us. 4 booms, 167 points, but at least he's given the wide receivers enough to keep them relevant, but his stat line isn't necessarily great. Lots of sacks, lots of turnovers. Could be coming in this one as well, as the Chargers should be ready to play on defense versus a Kirk O'Chain's. Bijan, low-level risk. Fire him up, obviously, everywhere you got him. At least they're utilizing him with a heavy volume, target share, and, touches coming his way. His floor has been relatively great of late as well, so I do like Bijan, obviously, this week. Algier not touching it this week once again, where Drake London was dealing with an injury off the injury report. Now good upside on the mid-level, where I do like the Chargers' defense quite a bit, but I do think they are gashable, and it's the fact that they move a Drake London all over that line, put him in the slot as well. He will be a big mismatch, and I think his game is going to be very sound. Darnell Mooney coming off the Achilles issue. I think it was just a little bit of a strain. He's good to go off the injury report as well. Mid-level risk. I like the play of him this week as well. Kirk O'Chain's one of his favorite targets. He's been absolutely phenomenal this year, where we could have drafted him. Darnell Mooney in a flex wide receiver, low-end wide receiver to play for me this week. Ray McLeod not touching it, where Kyle Pitts with the TD upside of the week, where the defense could be targeting or keying in, I should say, on a Drake London quite a bit. Kyle Pitts should be able to roam free. He's had a couple bust games the past several weeks before the bye, but his season has been very good so far, best since his rookie season. I like a Kyle Pitts a lot this week to boom. Baltimore Ravens taking on the Philadelphia Eagles, and great second half, like I said, versus those Chargers last week. Lamar Jackson, okay, he was doing what he does. With that throw he made to Bateman last week for the touchdown, absolutely fantastic. Low-level risk for him and Derrick Henry every single week. 12 boom games apiece. Basically, I think there's only like a few players left that have 100% boom rate, and Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry continue down this path. 299 points for Lamar, 235 for Derrick Henry. These guys are absolutely stellar every single week you fire them up. Justice Hill back to the mid-level PPR floor, especially against an Eagles defense that has played very well of late as well. Lots of good coverage, lots of good run stuffing as well. I do foresee, once again, like we saw last week, to get a defense a little bit more honest. They use the screen game to check downs to a Justice Hill to keep them honest a little bit, as he does have a lot of scamper speed in the open field. Deeper leagues for me, outside of 12-team leagues, it's a big risk to play a Hill, but I do like him in 14, 16-team leagues. Zay Flowers, mid-level risk right now for me. We are biting our fingernails off every single week at this point with Zay. He just doesn't get the target share that we want to be, feeling all warm and fuzzy. But when he does get those targets, he is making a lot of plays. Floor is at least anywhere from 9 to 12 points at this point right now, unless he gets into the end zone. Then we're looking at 16, which is beautiful. But Zay Flowers, I don't hate the play once again this week. But against the Eagles defense with a Mitchell and the other defensive back. Now I remember Mitchell's name, and I don't remember the other kid's name. Jesus, that backfield. I'm going to put a sticky note on my screen to remember their names, but they've been playing extremely well, so I do foresee a lot of coverage coming to a Zay Flowers side where they're going to make and force somebody else to beat them. Rashad Bateman, low floor on the mid-level. I mean, he's been doing okay, man. 104 points, and when they call upon him, he's making the catches. That's exactly what you want to see out of a Bateman. When you're called upon, make the big play. But again, the passing upside and the aptitude in this team, it's so, hit and miss all the time. You really do wonder. I think there's much better options than a Bateman this week as well. Poor Deontay Johnson. He's an afterthought in this offense. Just killed a lot of our shares, where Mark Andrews, the good upside, and also red zone appeal once again versus the Eagles. I do like Andrews once again this week. He has been an absolute fixture in this offense, where Isaiah, not so likely, is not doing many things good anymore for fantasy football. Buffalo Bills taking on the 49ers on Sunday Night Football. Should have been a beauty of a contest. Now we got a weather event, potential snowfall, heavy snow. Keep tabs on that one. I will definitely keep you guys updated in the comments as well on how the weather does turn. Apparently, Orchard Park is on the cusp of having this weather event, so we will see if it winds shift one way or the other. We could see a lot of snow in the forecast. Josh Allen, rushing upside. If the weather does turn, we know that Josh is still going to control the clock. He plays in Buffalo. He knows how to play in this weather. Strong arm quarterback. So we will see. I mean, 49ers coming to Buffalo. They will not expect the weather event. Josh Allen definitely rushing upside in the green. He should absolutely take over this contest once again, but temper the top end point totals if it is poor weather. James Cook on the volume upside in the green. They will be run heavy in this contest if it is poor weather. James Cook, 7 boom games, 156 points. Love me some Cook every single week, and this week is no different. Say, hey, Ray Davis, volume floor. Every time I want to believe the game script is going to, lean to his direction, we get foiled. I'm going to keep him on the bench for a time being at this point. Where Amari Cooper, mid-level risk, he seems to be that one guy at this point where it's like we need a huge play. You go to Cooper, he's making the play. That's what you like to see. You might get 4 for 50 and hope for a touchdown is kind of where you're going. So if you do got better options than an Amari, I would take it at this point, as he hasn't shown to be the target pig, and I don't think he will be in this offense. Curtis Samuel, PPR floor on the mid-level. If a Keon Coleman does sit, I do got Keon still on my list right now, but if a Keon does sit once again, I do like what I saw pre-bye week for a Curtis Samuel's role increasing for these Buffalo Bills. That's exactly how they should have been utilizing him, recreating the run game. Let him do some yak ability. There is upside here in deeper leagues. Khalil Shakir, he's been great, man. Everything to come his way. Hands are like glue. He's got yak upside up the wazoo. And I absolutely love it, man. PPR green, even in bad weather, he should still have a very decent day overall. Nothing to go over the top, but it should be decent. He just doesn't score touchdowns. Otherwise, his point totals would absolutely be inflated. Keon Coleman on the injury risk for me in the red. Even if he does suit up, I'm not touching it this week. That wrist injury, you don't know how it's going to turn out or be. So for me, keep Keon on the bench, where Dalton Kincaid is out of this contest, ruled out already. Dawson Knox would have your low floor on the mid-level risk with some red zone upside. Carolina Panthers taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Bryce Young, okay, I got you. You know, you take the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes to the wire, shocking everybody, but I think that, you know, it's just one of those things with the Chiefs right now. They want the season over so they can turn it up in the playoffs. That's what you kind of see even on the Black Friday game versus these Las Vegas Raiders. I mean, you saw how they played. They're not playing great overall. They're having a lot of mistakes. Eventually, something is going to bite them in the butt. You want to believe in the playoffs, but it's the Chiefs, man. They know when to flick that switch in the playoffs. Where the Panthers, Bryce Young, give it to him, man. He's been doing very well the last several weeks as well. Still got him on a high risk because this Tampa Bay Buccaneers front seven is very good. They should come after a Bryce Young quite a bit, but we are seeing the old Roll Tide Bryce Young playing ball, throwing absolute dimes down the field. Love what I see from the progression from a Bryce Young, just not trusting it in fantasy football. Chuba Hubbard, volume upside in the green. You can't. I mean, he's basically matchup proof at this point. This guy just does nothing but make plays. He does nothing but earn points in this offense. And I mean, I think we could play him regardless of who he's playing at this point. Every time I'm like, yeah, he could have a haircut this week. He doesn't, and he makes me look foolish. Chuba Hubbard, if you've been rolling with him all year, continue down that path because he has been very good on the game totals and point totals for you for the boom games. Jonathan Brooks not touching it. Like I said, give him time. He's coming back from that ACL. We'll likely see a real Jonathan Brooks next year, not this year. I don't foresee much coming from his direction in terms of fantasy point totals. Xavier Legette on the PBR floor, mid-level, 6 to 9 points unless he gets in the end zone. Or an Adam Thielen mid-level risk. He's going to slot back into being a favorite target of a Bryce Young. Maybe flex opportunities for both these gentlemen if you are stuck at the position, but I don't like necessarily either one of them versus the Buccaneers. But I mean, there could be some PPR upside. Just temper those expectations on the high-end booms, man. David Moore had a big game last week. I'm not touching that outside of deeper leagues. And Jatavion Sanders is ruled out of this contest as he fell on his head and kind of compressed his neck, got carted off the field. We got Tommy Tremble. And I'm trembling to even suggest playing this man. That's why I'm not going to do it. Cincinnati Bengals taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Joey B and company. These guys are rolling. Last-ditch effort to keep their season alive versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Huge divisional contest. 4-7 for these Bengals. Pittsburgh 8-3. They definitely got to win out to make the playoffs. These Bengals do so. Joey B and Jamar Chase have been lighting up the world on fire. 244 for Burrow, 215 for Chase. Chase is the wide receiver one right now currently in fantasy football. You fire these guys up everywhere you got them because it does not matter at this point. They're going to leave everything on the field trying to get their way into the postseason. I absolutely foresee a very good showing, but it is AFC North football. Weird things do happen. You know, grinding type of contests do occur. So I still like the play because, I mean, their life is on the line. They're on life support, and they should play. Mid-level risk for a Chase Brown. Pittsburgh's defense still very strong. TJ Watt and company, they should absolutely come after the run game. So I do foresee better options than a Chase Brown this week. T. Higgins. He's playing for that contract for another team. TD upside in the green. Abso-freaking-lutely. I'm firing him up. I got him in flex in a lot of my leagues right now. He's still wide receiver 3 upside with a low-end wide receiver 2. Definitely is here coming off a 25-point spot. Hopefully, you know, we see some coverage going to Jamar Chase, and that's when T. Higgins is going to absolutely take care of business. Fire up a T. Higgins everywhere you got him. Andre Yosevich not touching it on the high risk. Likewise with a Mike Gesicki, low floor. He's going to see limited target share, but a TD could come his way. Very much high risk, high reward. Cleveland Brownies taking on the Denver Broncos on Monday Night Football. Jameis Winston. I almost call him Jamo. Jameis Winston. We know the roller coaster ride that Jameis Winston is. I mean, the snow globe game we saw last week. Now they get Denver Broncos on Monday. Lots of Jameis primetime. It's actually kind of funny. Don't like the play of Jameis whatsoever this week. Low floor in the red. I do not like it versus these Denver Broncos. The defense is very good. Even though Jameis is going to sling the football all over the field, I totally foresee a lot of interceptions, a lot of turnovers, a lot of sacks coming his way. Do not like the play of this man. Likewise with a Nick Chubb on the mid-level risk. Volume upside is key, but I really don't foresee him, galloping through this team unless they find their way into the 5-yard line and Chubb does, scoot into the end zone again this week. Do not like the play of a Nick Chubb. Jerome Ford on the low floor, high level risk. Do not like it, where Jerry Jeudy's got himself a revenge game. He's been playing very well with these Cleveland Brownies. 6 boom games, over 100 points. He remembered how to catch, another Roll Tide player who did not necessarily play well in his NFL tenure so far. He looks like he's found a little bit of a home here with these Browns. Don't hate the play of a Jeudy. We could see some garbage time productivity. It's a revenge game, so we'll see how he does play. It just, again, man, the point totals in this contest could be very low based on how good this defense is in Denver. Elijah Moore not touching it, where Cedric Tillman still on the questionable right now as, we're entering Saturday, but I'm telling y'all, concussion protocol, I doubt he's going to suit up in this contest, so definitely I'll keep tabs on that for y'all. And David Njoku on the mid-level risk, dropped a TD last week, would have helped a lot of us in fantasy football. I think he could have a decent day of a PPR floor. Those Denver Broncos taking on those Cleveland Browns, like I'm saying. Bo Nix was dealing with a back injury this week, more so rest than anything. He's been so good, man. 8 boom games, 220 points. He could be and should be potentially the rookie of the year. He's been playing so damn good. Sean Payton has his team moving. Cleveland's got really nothing to play for outside of spoiler. I do like the play of Bo Nix this week again because they are spreading the football around to everybody, and everybody's getting a piece of the pie. Absolutely love Bo Nix this week. Javonte Williams, mid-level risk. It's one of those things, very difficult to trust the Javonte at this point. Cleveland still with a Myles Garrett. They do play very good on the front line. So, I mean, unless he breaks one or gets in the end zone, that's kind of saving his day. I'm not a fan of Devontae this week either. Estimate not touching it, where Cortland Sutton, I'm finally on board. I promoted him last week, and he repaid us handsomely with a lot of point totals. Low-level risk continues for Sutton because Bo Nix is finding his man on the regular. He's been playing so damn good. Troy Franklin, low floor in the red, not touching it. We're at Devon Vele, mid-level risk. I like the play in the flex. He got you 11+ last week. He's doing more than enough what you require. He is turning out to be the second wide receiver on this offense at this point, and Bo Nix and him have decent chemistry all day long. Adam Troutman not touching it like every single week. Houston Texans taking on the Jaguars, and the Texans coming off a horrific loss to those Tennessee Titans last week, and they lost a Petrie on the back end, the safety. I mean, their defense definitely not playing up to par like we had envisioned them to be. Likewise with a C.J. Stroud, he has not been the same dude this year. Definitely a sophomore slump is in effect. But this week versus the Jags, who really have nothing left to play for outside of, pride. And I mean, Doug Peterson's job is on the line. They could potentially have a Trevor Lawrence back, but C.J. Stroud, low-level risk, even though he is safer at home than he is on the road so far this year in terms of point totals. I think this is a big contest where they got to get a lot of things right. If they go 7-6 and their playoff lives are in jeopardy, this is going to be bad news for DeMeco Ryans and company. He's got to coach his team up just a little bit better. Kind of feel like he lost a little bit. They were feeling themselves a little too much. Time to humble yourselves, and C.J. Stroud definitely needs to play better football, but I still like him this week. Anywhere from, 17 to 22 points should be the floor versus the Jags. Joe Mixon on the bounce-back stud start. Did not play well last week, was basically shut down, and I think this week he's going to absolutely run wild, man. We do not see Joe Mixon have 2 bad games in a row, basically in his entire career. I think Joe's going to have a very sound day. Stud start for me, without question. Derry, we're not going to touch this week on the low floor as well. Nico Collins gets a low-level risk. He is the truth, man. Alpha number 1 wide receiver on this offense, makes everything look better for C.J. Stroud, and he's going to continue to eat. He is definitely the wide receiver 1 on this team. Even when Stephon Diggs was here, he was so good, and he will continue. Fire up Nico everywhere you got him. Tank Dell on the mid-level risk. Like I'm saying, fighting those hands still. The dropping problems still reside. Dropped another couple last week. So outside of him scoring a touchdown, he really does hamper us to Pop Douglas levels where he's like 8.5 to 10 points at most unless he gets into the end zone. So Tank Dell, play with some levels of caution, but if you want those 9 points, Tank should at least give you that. John Mechie not touching it. Likewise with a Dalton Schultz, we cannot play it. The target's just not abundant enough for this tight end. Indianapolis Colts taking on the New England Patriots. Okay, and I'm telling you right now, because Indy is still kind of in this thing, if they lose this contest, their playoff hopes are completely done. We got some injury news. I mean, Josh Downs, he is out. We are not down for Downs this week. He's done with a shoulder injury. Could be week to week from what I'm seeing. Couple weeks. Could be on the shelf if they do lose this game and their season's over. I wonder if we'll even see a Josh Downs for the remainder of the season, where Alec Pierce should slot in. He's dealing with a foot injury, and Ashton Doolin is out with an ankle as well. Why does that matter? Because the depth purposes on the wide receiver is very limited. So we got Alec Pierce, Michael Pittman, and an A.D. Mitchell. I do like Anthony Richardson this week, having a bounce back. He had some dropped passes last week for touchdowns. He did miss a couple passes. I do foresee something of a bounce back versus the New England Patriots, who are struggling on the defensive side overall. Like the rushing upside, I think he's a low-risk play this week. He should definitely bounce back and give us that higher ceiling we're looking for. Same with a Jonathan Taylor. He's been so bad the last 2 weeks. It's been not good, man. I do see a bounce back in the green. They got to get back to the ground and pound, especially without the wide receiver show that they don't have at this point. You got to get back to a JT full volume workload, and I think he's going to get it this week versus the New England Patriots. Got to set up that play action pass, use the RPOs to your advantage. If I'm playing any of these wide receivers, I'm ranking it Michael Pittman, A.D. Mitchell, then I'm going Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce definitely has the upside when it comes to TDs, but I don't know how healthy that foot is, and if he does tweak something, he could be out of this contest relatively quickly. So it is Pittman and A.D. Mitchell. Don't dislike A.D. if you're in a pinch to pick up a wide receiver and get some point totals. But again, the floor could be pretty low if he's not going to get the targets from an Anthony Richardson. Somebody's got to take the Josh Downs role, and I think AD could do very well in that respect. And Mo Cox, Mo problems, not touching it like every single week. Jacksonville Jaguars taking on those Houston Texans. Good news, positive news. Trevor Lawrence is likely to suit up. I use air quotes in that one. We still don't know. Apparently, it is quite a significant AC joint shoulder issue right now. He has been progressing very well, but these things can, pull back in a second, and we could see him, last minute, late time, inactive. I would not be shocked if that does happen as well, but so far, so good. No setbacks. He should be good to go, so he's got a mid-level risk for me after missing a couple contests. He should be back to at least decent levels, but he doesn't necessarily have a wide receiver core outside of Brian Thomas Jr. and Evan Ingram. The rest of these guys are patch-made solutions at this point, where Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby was dealing with that injury, likewise with an Etienne, so pick your poison here. It is a very tricky backfield to dissect. I still like Etienne on the mid-level, still like Bigsby on the mid-level, especially with a Trevor Lawrence shoulder issue. Maybe they dial back some of the passes, lean a little bit more on the run game. So at this point, I want to see, more health from an Etienne, but it's been so long since he's been on the field. I think he should be really good to go, man. He's not on the injury report. Nobody's suggesting that he's got any setbacks either. I'll go Etienne over Bigsby, but Bigsby does have the TD upside this week. Parker Washington, Tim Jones, not looking in that direction, where Brian Thomas Jr., TD upside on the mid-level risk. Don't dislike the play, even though I called him a bust on Boom and Bust. It's only because I'm tempering those expectations due to a Trevor Lawrence shoulder AC joint injury. I do not like those injuries, man. If you ever had it, you can't even lift your arms over your head. So it is all about pain tolerance and what they inject in that shoulder. So I'm telling y'all, temper those expectations. Outside of a long TD for a Brian Thomas, you might have a very rough day. Where Evan Ingram on the PPR upside green, he is a check down short yardage play. He could see a heaping of volume from a Trevor Lawrence as he tries to work through that shoulder issue. Los Angeles Chargers taking on the Atlanta Falcons. Justin Herbert, like I said, they went to bed in that second half, and I don't understand what the hell. Obviously, QJ dropping everything to come his way. He's a big problem. See those hands, man. Go back to my scouting reports. I don't lie. I said he's questionable hands for a QJ. He's a body catcher, and look what we're continuing to see. Still fighting those hands in the most opportune times to make big plays. If the man gets the ball in his hands, he's an absolute stellar playmaker. It's just he can't catch the ball consistently enough. So Justin Herbert right now, low-level risk. I think they're going to go to a very, QB-friendly offense this week because J.K. Dobbins is out with a knee injury. He is week-to-week. Gus Edwards, Kamani Vidal, Hassan Haskins. Man, oh man, if you're going to go for a Gus Edwards, it is volume upside, no question, but he has definitely seen better days. He is just that bruiser type of running back. You're not going to see a heaping of, breakaway runs, mid-level risk for me. Only on volume, you may get 12 to 15 carries from a Gus. But I wonder how many yards you're going to get outside of them being inside the goal line. I mean, that's what's going to save his day, no question. Vidal, you want to hope that he's going to get some PPR upside, but since his one breakout contest, they basically put him on the bench and said, "You sit there." Don't know what he did, man. Who he cussed down on the locker room because they're not letting this man play at this point. Josh Palmer, just not near enough high level risk. Where QJ low floor on the mid level risk now for me. See, even when he does hit, man, he's going to catch those long TDs, make your bench look like, damn it, I should have played him. But it's like, you got 0 points from the guy last week. This is the top end and low end that you get from a QJ every single week. Very difficult to trust. But Lad McConkey, he's a good lad. Love me some Lad this week. Low-level risk, high PPR upside, and potentially a touchdown coming his way as well. I do foresee a lot of him and Will Disley this week. PPR upside for a Disley. You just can't trust a QJ in the most opportune times where Josh Palmer should be that wide receiver too behind a Lad. He runs great routes. He's got really sure hands. I don't know why they don't utilize Josh Palmer more, but Disley and Lad, I'm definitely in for this week. LA Rams taking on the New Orleans Saints. Matthew Stafford turning back the clock. And they're playing good football overall, but I mean, they just got to put it all together. 5-6, still in this thing because the division they're in is basically locked up with similar records. Seahawks at 6-5. They're only 1 game back at this point, taking on the Saints coming off the bye week. Low-level risk for a Matthew Stafford. He still continues to throw some of the prettiest passes we see in football. He does very well. 5 boom games, 161 points. And with the offense that they do have, we see how the Saints have been playing overall since firing the coach, since, Olave went down, etc., since making trades. You got to see, I mean, they're going to have some kind of a sidestep eventually, and this is a big one where New Orleans doesn't have much to play for. I think the Rams do have a good offensive showing, and this could be a good shootout this week. And Kyron Williams got back on track last week. Low-level risk for him and Stafford. Fire them up everywhere you got him if you have him. Cooper Kupp, low-level risk. Fire him up with Puka Nacua. Likewise on the green. Absolutely love the 2 plays. I mean, these guys are stellar. 16, 15 points each every single week. You cannot do any worse than that. And then TD floor on the mid-level for a DeMarcus Robinson outside of deeper leagues, not touching it. And Colby Parkinson, he's been the afterthought since Puka came back, and we cannot trust it. Where Tyler Higbee's coming back very close to his return as well, but Colby Parkinson, we're not looking in that direction. Minnesota Vikings taking on those Arizona Cardinals. And while they're winning games, I mean, they're using everybody else. What did Jettis say the other day? He says, if I'm being locked up, everybody else is eating, and that is exactly what's going down. Aaron Jones ate last week. Addy ate last week. Hawk ate last week. And JJ just ran a bunch of cardio, pulling coverage from everybody this week. I like Sam Darnold last week. I like Sam Darnold again this week. Even though the Cardinals have played very good defense of late, even Budda Baker, he's just all over the frickin' field, man. You see this guy basically on every play making something happen. I still like Sam Darnold this week. They have simplified the offense enough, and I basically take what the defense gives you at this point. You want to put triples on JJ, we'll go to everybody else until you adjust, and we'll kill you that way. So low-level risk, 9 boom games. Sam Darnold's great season continues and should versus these Arizona Cardinals at home. Aaron Jones, TD upside in the mid-level. Only reason I give him mid-level is how good they stopped a Kenny Walker the third last week, so it does give me a little bit of pause, but I'm still firing up in Aaron Jones everywhere I got him. I do believe he still is good enough to get in the open field and make those plays. It just, I don't know, man. They played so good against Kenny Walker the third last week. It does scare me a little bit. I still like the play of an Aaron Jones. JJ on the bounce back. It's been 3 games, man. 3 games. He's got 22 points in those 3 games. It is not good, man. We need this JJ big time, especially if some of y'all fighting for those playoff lives. I do foresee a bounce back. There is no way he's going to go 4 games with this limited, productivity. No way in hell. 9 booms for a JJ. I'm calling number 10 this week. He's going to hit in a big way back in the end zone. Let's give it up for JJ. Jalen Naylor not touching it. Where Jordan Addison, good upside in the green. Like I've been preaching it, man, since he came back from that injury. Use the man. He is a true stud wide receiver, supportive piece, and I still think he's a wide receiver 1 in this league. Truly do. I think Minnesota's got 2 of them on this team. Addy is so good in his craft. He can pull away from anybody when he has the ball in his hand. 100 points, 4 boom games. So good on the field. And TJ Hawkinson, mid-level risk. We can absolutely fire him up in the tight end spot. We'll see if he does score a TD this week. New England Patriots taking on those Colts. I actually like this game a lot, and I'll tell you why. Because I do foresee a lot of points potentially happening in this game. These teams have, relatively no shot. New England has no shot to make the playoffs, where the Colts, 1 more loss, and they're basically toast. I think they're just going to let it loose in this contest. See what they got on the field. They got a bunch of youth on both clubs. Drake May, this is one of these games where I think you can pull it out. You can win this game. Just play good football. 4 boom games for this rook since taking over, 120 points. Good upside on the mid-level. I don't hate the play if you are streaming quarterbacks this season. Ramondre Stevenson on the mid-level. He's been like the Jameis Winston of running backs, where this roller coaster ride of point totals either hits the super high or it's like super low. He's got a game under 1 point, man, and I think he did go down with an injury, but still, under 1 point, that's ridiculous. TD upside bounce back for me for a Dre this week. 127.6 boom games. You got to get back to the ground pound with a Dre. Even though Antonio Gibson did take a lot of the touches last week, I'm putting him on the red, and Dre's going to have more volume this week. You got to believe. Keyshawn Boutte, you like some booty? You got some booty. Just not near enough booty to go around at this point. Low floor. Kendrick Bourne, likewise, target floor in the red, not touching it. Where Demario Douglas, it's like every single week, man. You know you're getting 7.5 points from this guy, if not 9. That's basically what he's given us. If he found his way into the end zone, he would be one of the most productive slot wide receivers in this league. He's just not finding his way into the end zone. He was dealing with an ankle injury as well, but I don't foresee him sitting this week, as noted from all the beat writers at this point. He should be good to go. Pop Douglas. I do foresee, again, a 7.5 to 8 point week this week, unless he gets into the end zone. Hunter Henry, mid-level risk. Only reason, man, they're using Austin Hooper a lot more, and Drake just absolutely loves finding Hooper more than Hunter Henry right now. So, I mean, for me, that's why he's a little bit of a downgrade, because they're utilizing the other tight end just a little bit more at this point. New Orleans Saints taking on the Rams. Coming off the bye week, Derek Carr, still no Chris Olave. CO2, my guy. Good upside for Derek Carr in the mid-level risk. So we know this offense. I mean, Taysom Hill, he went off like a bat out of hell, 2 weeks ago? Got you almost 40 points in most of your leagues. Derek Carr, good upside on the mid-level risk. They don't have anything to lose, so they're playing free. And what does work in this offense when they got a Marquez Valdez-Scantling, very much similar to a Rashid Shaheed. Just burn the field deep, remove all stacked boxes. Derek Carr feeds everybody underneath. Basically the MO of this offense the entire season, and it's still working with the patch-made solutions with all these injuries at wide receiver. Derek Carr, good upside. If you're in a pinch, don't hate it, but definitely expect some errant throws from time to time. But there is also vulturing happening here, because we know Taysom Hill has got a big role on this offense with an Alvin Kamara, low-level risk for a Kamara. You fire him up everywhere you got him. He's been killer every single game, basically. He should have another good one this week. MVS, mid-level risk, deep shots. Even if you get 4 targets, you know they're at least trying 2 of those deep, and he's found his hands. He can catch again. MVS definitely has TD upside this week. Cedric Wilson, Mason Tipton, not touching it. Where Taysom Hill, once again, low-level risk. It's Taysom, it's Alvin Kamara, and then it's everybody else. That's kind of how you feel this offense is moving, and they're just going to say, we dare you to stop it, and right now nobody can stop it. Taysom Hill, he's just a damn good football player. He doesn't have a position. He's just a football player, getting us 35 points, when he does hit. Juwan Johnson, low floor on the mid-level, just not near enough to support this week. New York Jets taking on the Seattle Seahawks. Aaron Rodgers. And this, dysfunctional Jets team, 3-8. I mean, it's not good. Coming off the bye week, rumors that Aaron Rodgers wants to stay in New York, hasn't decided if he's going to stay or play or retire. Do the Jets even want him back next year? I mean, so many question marks. Breece Hall also dealing with a knee injury, which is weird on the bye week, and then this week in practice kind of tweaked something, so it definitely gives me a little concern and pause. Aaron Rodgers, mid-level risk. He's got to save face. This guy's got too much ego to go into the cellar and be like, we at least didn't look good going down, so I don't hate the play of Aaron Rodgers versus Seahawks at home this week. Think he should play decently well. He's given us the 18 to 20 points. Can't hate it if you're streaming Aaron Rodgers. Breece Hall, though, does give me pause. Usually a low-level risk for me. I got him on mid-level. That knee does scare me quite a bit, where Braylon Allen could take some of that volume upside. So if you are thinking about playing a Braylon, there is risk. Let me preface with that and caution. There is risk if you do play it. Maybe they're playing a little coy and saying that Breece Hall's knee is worse than it is. So this could backfire quite handsomely if we don't, think twice about it. But if Breece Hall is legitimately injured, I do like Braylon Allen this week for some volume upside to at least take a 50-50 share in this backfield. Devontae Adams, mid-level risk. Or Garrett Wilson, I got him on the green bounce back. 2 bus games before the bye. Had has been absolutely crushing us versus Seahawks defense, who does play well overall on the secondary. Garrett's got to have a big game this week, and I totally foresee it coming. Devontae Adams maybe finds his way into the end zone, but I'm going Garrett Wilson over Adams this week. Corley not touching it. Conklin, TD floor, he's about 1 to 4 boom games, and I think his time could come this week as well. So if you are looking for some player with some upside on TDE, that is Conklin, but the floor is very small. Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Baltimore Ravens. What a game this is going to be. 9-2 Eagles. Jalen Hurts, man. Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley. Did you see Jalen Hurts smiling? He's like, this dude is on my team. I'm so happy. I'm not even an Eagles fan, and I love me some Saquon. Always love Saquon going back to Penn State days. Low-level risk for both Jalen Hurts and a Barkley. 245, 252 in points, respectively. These guys are absolutely tearing it up. And Saquon, dude, he is absolutely in the MVP category, even though it is a quarterback award at this point. Saquon is absolutely putting this team on his back every single week. 250 yards rushing. It's not going to be like that against the Ravens this week, but I mean, the Ravens definitely do have some issues in the pass game, and A.J. Brown, grown-ass man, I definitely foresee a big one coming for A.J. Brown this week. Low-level risk as the Baltimore Ravens do get gashed through the air quite a bit, where Jahan Dotson, Anais Smith not touching it because of Devontae Smith. Smitty, he's likely going to sit this week. He's saying he really doesn't know if he's going to be able to suit up this week, so I'm taking that as he is not good to go. So do not play as Smitty. Even if he does manage to suit up, I do not like it whatsoever. Where Dallas Goedert 2 weeks in a row. I thought he was going to have a better week last week. Did not give us about 6 points. He should be better this week, especially through the air versus a Ravens defense that can be gashed. Pittsburgh Steelers taking on those Bengals. Russell Wilson feeling dangerous, and he's got to have some better games, but they're grinding out the wins. That's all they want to do. Win the division. Go to the playoffs. See what you can do. Russell Wilson, good upside on the mid-level. Cincinnati's defense isn't stellar overall, but they do rush the quarterback very well. I wonder how they're going to, hold up versus front seven of the Cincinnati Bengals. But Russell Wilson, he's been giving us, 13 to 15 to 16 points. Not good enough for streamers right now unless he starts throwing TDs. They just don't have a secondary wide receiver to take the pressure off of a George Pickens. That is a big problem, but I mean, Russell Wilson, if you're in a pinch, deeper leagues, I get it. 12-team, I'm not playing Russ this week on the mid-level. Good upside. Najee Harris, Jalen Warren, I'm leaning Jalen over a Najee at this point. Only thing saving Najee every single week is trying to find his way into the end zone. He looks like he's got 2 trailers hooked up to his ass. I don't know. He's just slow. He looks really bad. You know what he reminds me of? I'll put it to you this way. No disrespect, Najee. You're a great player. I'm just having a little fun with you. But, I mean, you know what he looks like? He looks like a Leonard Fournette. Do y'all remember Leonard Fournette? When he came into the league, he was absolutely stellar fast. He looked so good, like Najee did coming out of college. But Leonard Fournette aged so fast right in front of our eyes. He became a senior citizen, basically, in terms of NFL. Very, very fast. It's kind of how I feel about Najee, too. He's like a Leonard Fournette in a similar stance. I do like a Jalen Warren over a Najee this week, both on the mid-level, and we'll see how they do. George Pickens, TD upside in the green. At least he's getting a lot of target share to support a lot of this. We're Van Jefferson, Calvin Austin, Mike Williams, all in the red. Do not like either one of them, any of them, I should say, where it is Pat Freiermuth to me, man. If you want to exploit teams, utilize Pat Freiermuth. He should be your number 2 target on this offense. He's got hands, he can run routes, and he's a big body target in the red zone. Why do you not use this man? 18% on the boom rate is just gross, and you guys should be ashamed of yourselves. Mike Tomlin, use the Muth. I mean, again, he's a risk, but there is TD floor on the mid-level risk this week for the Muth. San Francisco taking on the Bills. Like I said, Sunday Night Football, weather event potentially. Brock Purdy's situation is very concerning. They're saying he's trending to play, so I got him slotted in here. 9 boom games. That shoulder injury, we'll see, man. He was supposed to suit up last week. They said, no good to go. And now you're going to put him in the snow game potential versus the Bills. This just does not look good for Brock Purdy. If you got better options, I suggest you absolutely take it this week. Injury risk on the mid-level. Purdy's good enough at, 70% health to at least move the football, but it's going to be really tough against the Buffalo Bills team that's coming off the bye week with Matt Milano potentially playing this week as well. Brock Purdy definitely is going to see better days. I don't like the play this week. Christian McCaffrey, volume upside in the green. So like I said in Boomer Bust, if Brock Purdy plays, I'm going to take away the bust category for CMC because we should see a lot of checkdowns, should see a lot of yak yardage, and if the weather's poor, we're going to see a lot of running upside as well. So Christian McCaffrey, to me, I said I wanted to confirm it today. We are confirming it. You can play CMC in a bad weather game with a Brock Purdy, 110%. He should get back to basics. Giving you what, so far since he's been back, 13 has been the ceiling. I think 6 last week was the floor. So you should get at least back over the 12-point mark for a CMC with potential upside in check down PPR upside. Jordan Mason, there could be some 50-50 splits again this week between the two, as the Achilles injury is definitely hard to come back from CMC, but not enough for me to start, where Debo is becoming a problem, not catching passes. They got to scheme up stuff again, Kyle Shanahan. This is the last-ditch effort for these 49ers basically to make the playoffs. They need this game in a big way to keep pace with the Seattle Seahawks and the rest of the division at this point. So Debo, to me, it's a risk, mid-level, flex appeal if you have to and you have no better options. I don't hate it because eventually he's far too talented to not explode, and maybe he does get the better of the Buffalo Bills at this point, where the Bills are good in coverage overall. They just do a lot of good things schematically by Kyle Shanahan, so I don't dislike Debo this week. Ricky Pearsall not touching it, where Juwan Jennings, third and Juwan, mid-level risk. Flex appeal, wide receiver 3, 110% for Juwan. He does get you a lot of points on the PPR upside, where George Kittle is in the green on the PPR upside, and TD upside once again, the people's tight end. We play him every week. He's been so good, one of his career seasons without question. Seattle Seahawks taking on the New York Jets. Geno, man, mid-level risk, nothing more than your 13 to 17. That's all you're getting from Geno at this point. He's not lighting the world afire. If you're streaming quarterbacks, you can do better than a Geno, just like a Russell Wilson. Very similar type of stat lines you're getting. Geno mid-level, at least he's supporting the guy that we love, JSN, Jackson Smith-Njigba. Man, I've been preaching it all season long, and finally it's just wonderful to see that the evolution of a JSN finally come to fruition. Love me some JSN back with the Ohio State Buckeyes, and he's showcasing the fact, what I say a couple shows back, in about 2 to 3 years, he's going to show the fact he's one of the best route runners in this game, in this league, and he's well on his way. JSN has been playing very well. Fire him up everywhere he got him. Kenny Walker III, where the Jets defense has seen better days. Fire up Kenny everywhere he got him. He should have a bounce back in a big way with an end zone trip as well. Metcalf and Lockett were both on the injury report, now off, where Metcalf was dealing with a shoulder. I can't remember what Lockett was. I think it was a knee issue. Good upside for a Metcalf since coming back from his knee injury. Hasn't really been involved. It has been defaulted to a JSN. I like Metcalf this week as well, even though he's probably going up against a Sauce Gardner. Sauce has not played very well this season, so I do think that Metcalf could get the better of him, where JSN should eat a lot once again over the middle. Lockett, we're not touching. Likewise with a Noah Fant, high-level risk. Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on those Carolina Panthers, and much like the New York Giants, I do foresee a very similar event going here with Bryce Young. The front line is good. Vita Vea should eat a Bryce Young for breakfast. And I'm telling y'all right now, where the Panthers are playing a lot better overall. They're just, don't get it twisted. Tampa Bay's fighting for their playoff lives, and they will come after this offense quite a bit. Baker Mayfield and this offense looked so good last week. Called a Rashad, called Bucky last week. I'm doing it again. Let's get back on the horse, man. Fire up a Baker Mayfield. Fire up a Rashad White. Fire up a Bucky Irving. This is how this offense is kind of going right now. They have a three-headed monster at the running back spot, where Rashad White is that PPR guy, where Bucky is running in between the tackles like a madman. It's just such a perfect mix between the two that they are so difficult to defend, as you don't know what's going to happen with either running back in the backfield. You can absolutely fire up all these guys at this point, where a Mike Evans, Big Mike, TD upside in the green, told y'all to temper those expectations last week, coming off the IR and the hammy. He's got one game back, no worse for wear, no setbacks to injury. Fire up Mike this week. TD upside in the green, as his 1,000-yard consistent seasons, it could come to an end if they don't force feed this man. I absolutely do foresee Mike Evans having a big day. Shepard, McMillan not touching it, where Cade Otton had one of his worst games he's had in a long time. Had nothing to do with Mike Evans back. They just utilized the running backs and the game flow the way it went. They beat out the Giants. There was no need to use a Cade Otton this week on the mid-level risk. I do foresee Cade Otton getting back into that end zone. Tennessee Titans taking on the Washington Commanders, the Commies. Will Levis, okay, 4 games in a row. I do like what I see. He's starting to get a little more comfortable, making passes downfield. Still making his mistakes, but at least he's doing what he's good at, chucking that ball down the field. The velocity on this man's arm, if he wants to pinpoint one through the window, he's getting it through that window, through the finest of holes. Will Levis, mid-level risk. I think you could do a lot worse on streamers. There is upside here, but again, it's around that 16 to 18 points. You're not going to go much higher than that because, I mean, somebody's got to catch the touchdowns, and Will's got to have a perfect game. So for me, I'm looking in other directions. It's just nice to see in 14, 16-team leagues, you could play a Will Levis this week as well. Tony Pollard, low-level risk. Fire him up everywhere we got him. He's been so good, man. 7 boom games on the season, 138 points. He's given us, when he hits, man, he's given us the 13 to 15 points. Love it all day long, half PBR. Tajay Spears coming back from the concussion on the questionable. High-level risk, not touching it. Where Calvin Ridley, if it wasn't for the penalties and some issues, his stat line would be way higher, man. We've had a couple TDs called back for this man. He's looking good. Now without a D-Hop, like I said a couple weeks back, it's subtraction, addition by subtraction, I should say. And I mean, he's been taking the wide receiver 1 role to perfection. Targets coming his way. Good upside on the mid-level. We can play a Calvin Ridley versus the Commies, where Nick Westbrook Akine, end zone just finds this man, nose for the end zone. Do I suggest we can play him? I mean, I have to at this point. He's got 4 boom games, and he's played very well the last 4. He's a definite fixture in this offense. We can play a Westbrook Akeem this week once again. We're a Chig Okonkwo, not touching it, even though he got a 70-yard touchdown. I do not play an Okonkwo in fantasy football. Just can't do it. Washington Commanders, the last one taking on those Titans, like I'm saying. The Commies. Jaden Daniels started that first half like garbage, came back and tossed to 32 points last week. Unreal what we saw. Another crazy finish for these Commies. Terry, he freaking gets one late, ties a game. They miss the point after. Dallas ends up winning off a onside kick, a return for touchdown. Ridiculous things happen with these Commies, 7-5. They need a big win here versus these Titans. Tennessee does play good defense overall. Jaden should be stifled from time to time, but he will, again, give you the business that you require. Low-level risk, fire him up. Brian Robinson Jr., he's off the injury report, wherein Austin Eckler is out with a concussion, so Jeremy McNichols will slot in that secondary role. But Brian Thomas has been dealing with a set of injuries this year again. I love the kid. I think he's absolutely stellar at the running back spot. 7 boom games, 111 points. It's just health is a concern right now. Still, I would definitely look at playing a B-Rob, but just you got to pull back the top-end totals because if they're running in the middle of that line, Tennessee's still extremely well at defending the run in between the tackles. It's outside the tackles where they do stumble from time to time. McNichols, low floor on the mid-level risk as well. We're scary. Terry McLaurin, 9 boom games. Fire him up everywhere we got him, man. He is just so good. You see why we like Terry. He's just so damn good. He just needs a quarterback to get him the ball, and he makes highlight things happen, man. Noah Brown off the injury report, and I'm so happy to see it, man. Finally, these guys listen. I said long time ago, beginning of the season, if you use Noah Brown as your wide receiver too, good things are going to happen. He's off the injury report as well. 2 boom games, mid-level risk. He'll get you about 10 points with decent volume. Diami Brown not touching it, and Zach Ertz, mid-level risk. TD upside exists every single week with this guy. Almost 100 points for him. He's had a very good season with these Commies. But there you have it. That is week number 13. Starts it post-Thanksgiving and Black Friday. I mean, we got to get these dubs. A lot of points on the board already. Hopefully, you're in a good spot right now to carry on for the rest of the week. But it is definitely going to be good as we are only 2 weeks away now from the fantasy football playoffs. Let's get these dubs, man. But nevertheless, as always, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, jump in those comments, give me your thoughts, drop your start-sit questions in the comments. I'll definitely get back to everybody, but we'll see you next time. I am out.